the show. Jules and Ali will be here to reflect on Arsenal's 2-0 victory over Leicester in the Carabao Cup. We'll start, though, with Chelsea's thrashing of Barnsley, beating them by 6-0. Gab Marcotti, Shaka, Hislop and Dom Hutchison with us to reflect on that big win. I suppose the big story out of this, Dom, was Kai Havertz getting a hat-trick after what was somewhat of a dodgy start to his campaign in a Chelsea shirt.
Yeah, everyone, I think, on social media have been too quick to sort of get on Kai Havertz's back. The kid's been in the country for 5 minutes. He hasn't played a full 90 minutes yet. He played about an hour against Brighton, 45 minutes against Liverpool, and then scored a hat-trick tonight. So, and by the way, he was playing in his favourite position in that number 10 role. So, listen, there's obviously a player there. We all know how much of a superstar he is, but give the kid a little bit of time. I think the scoreline doesn't tell the full picture, though, Dan. The early parts of the game, Barnsley were really good. And
no one cares about that, Don. Who cares if Barnsley were good the first 10 minutes, lose 6-0?
No, because the biggest story was that Willy Caballero was actually on fire for about 15, 20 minutes. If he'd have had pulled off his saves, Chelsea could have been 1 or 2-0 down.
Barnsley were terrible. The defensive errors at the back were just shocking, Shaka. But overall, Kai Havertz getting on the score sheet, giving him a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, and he needed that, and Don's absolutely right. Kai Havertz just arrived at Stamford Bridge, new league, just turned 21 a couple of months ago. Yet, I guess it's because of the price tag, people expect an instant return. But more times than not, especially when you're talking about kids this age, it takes a little bit of time to settle, and that's what you're seeing, which is why I think Frank Lampard had him in the team sheet from the start, gave him the opportunity to come out and play. The goals would have done his confidence the world of good. Another game under his belt. So things are moving in the right direction as far as that goes. And again, I'm with Don. The kind of criticism that he's had to endure early on was just simply ridiculous.
Anything else strike you from this game, Gab? Don't mention the opening 10 minutes of Barnsley.
Okay, or Caballero's great saves. No, I mean, look, just continue with the Havertz thing. I think the guy is a longer-term project who played in a very different situation at Leverkusen. He only just arrived, and the other thing is Lampard has played him in different positions in the first 2 games. And I think tonight against Barnsley, you wouldn't read too much into that other than the fact that maybe he gains confidence. I think what's going to be interesting is to see how does he use him in the next game. What formation will they play? Will he start the next game? And how will he cope there? I agree. I think possibly if everybody had been fit, if Pulisic and Ziyech had been around, maybe he would have been brought on more slowly, because it is a very big jump. It's a very sudden jump for somebody who, 3 weeks ago was still a Leverkusen player and all for the German national team.
Gab, let's talk about Rudiger and Hudson-Odoi. Frank Lampard asked about their futures, said that he didn't want to commit to an answer. Both look like they're out of the club. Yeah,
and I don't know. Lampard works with these guys every day. We said before, this is a very, very large squad to manage. So when you think of Callum Hudson-Odoi in particular, it's pretty incredible. If you cast your mind back really not that long ago, less than 2 years ago, you had Bayern Munich offering 40 million pounds to sign Callum Hudson-Odoi, Chelsea committing to a very long-term contract, a very lucrative contract. Then the guy gets hurt, he comes back, and now he's in limbo again. If Lampard doesn't think he's right for him, I certainly hope from Chelsea's perspective that they loan him out. The Rudiger bit, I simply, frankly, don't understand. I don't know if they need to claw some money back. They want to claw some money back, possibly to help pay for some of the other signings. Maybe he is one of the more saleable assets, although he's defensively anyway. But it does feel as if he's frozen out.
Yeah, Don, they haven't exactly got a plethora of defenders to choose from. The fact that they're willing to let Rudiger go, is this a mistake?
I mean, personally, I think it's a mistake because I think he's Chelsea's best defender. But the only thing is, Dan, looking at his injury record, he's had 3 operations on his knees in the last 4 years, and one was an ACL. So you don't know behind the scenes. Even though his age is with him being 27 and he's banging his prime, but still, Frank and the medical staff will know how durable he is. When I look at Chelsea, and I look at all the players that they've got, like Kurt Zouma, Andreas Christensen, Tomori, Thiago Silva. When I look at them, I think their best defender, in my opinion, is Antonio Rudiger. I think he's He's the best one. He's reliable every single week. But for some reason, whether it's a personnel problem and whether Antonio Rudiger's got too much of a voice inside the dressing room, or it's the fact that, as I said before, he has been played with the injuries and the surgeries.
Gab, you're nodding quite a lot then.
No, I mean, I agree. It's not like, these other defenders are Beckenbauer and Maldini. It looked as if Tomori was gonna leave on loan. It was very close to him going to Everton. I assume if Rudiger goes, then Tomori stays. Also because otherwise you're going to be undermanned. Thiago Silva is phenomenal, but Thiago Silva is also very old. Zuma and Christensen especially have had ups and downs. So it would seem weird if you leave yourself undermanned. At least, give yourself some options. You're not going to send Rudiger on loan most likely, or it's more difficult to send him on loan. So the logical thing to do, I would have thought, would have been let Tomori go on loan. If you need him, you bring him back in January. If you really want to stick with these players and not invest more in the back. But, like I said, there have to be reasons behind it. But it does make me laugh. Remember way back when Chelsea were first linked to Havertz and all the papers made such a big deal about how Antonio Rudiger rang up Kai Havertz and convinced him to come to Chelsea, really sold him on Chelsea. If these stories are true, then the joke's on Rudiger. And it's a shame because, he's not just a good footballer, he's also a class act.
Meanwhile, Shaka, what's going on in your house?
People are just moving everywhere in this house. Don't know what's going on.
Do you not have any control, Shaka?
Apparently not.
Shaka, reports suggesting that Mendy is a done deal. If it happens today, say, can he walk into the team on Saturday against Crystal Palace at the Bridge?
Maybe Saturday is a little bit too soon, but given the performance that we saw from Willy Caballero, which Don was so complimentary of, I don't see why you let Caballero play on the weekend and then bring Mendy in during give him a week to bed or whatever it is. But right now, I just feel that this weekend is a little bit too soon, even if he arrives in London, say, Thursday and is able to train with the team Thursday morning or whatever it is.
Why, Shaka?
I just feel it takes a little bit of time to get to know your defenders, get to know their names. They get to know you a little bit more.
What do you want to wear a badge? What should they wear a name badge?
I'm just saying. My point is, in the heat of competition, when you've only known these guys 24, 48 hours, it gets a bit much, and I think you need a little bit more time.
Ah, dear. Don, it is quite a debacle, isn't it? Considering the whole Kepa situation and where we stand with Chelsea, who have spent so much money, obviously, to reinforce this squad, that they've started the season more badly in some eyes because of the Kepa situation.
I was surprised, not through hindsight. I thought that from match day one, that Frank actually started Kepa. I would have thought the logical thing, in my humble opinion, would be to start Caballero. Then you haven't really got a problem knowing that you're trying to sign Mendy. That would have been the sort of logical way to go, because it's going to be very interesting if Mendy ends up signing this week and can play obviously at the weekend. I agree with Shaka. It'll probably be Caballero that starts after his game tonight, and then Mendy on the bench. But you've still got the story of then Kepa not even involved in the matchday squad. So it's a problem that he's got to fix. I'm not sure where actually Kepa goes. I'm looking across Europe and they all seem pretty set with their number one. So that's going to be a big problem for him.
Meanwhile, Shaka, I want to talk to you about Jordan Pickford. Everton playing Fleetwood Town today. Everton win, but Pickford conceded two terrible goals. The first one, down in at the back, and the second one, I still don't know quite how he doesn't save it.
Yeah, the second one was harder to explain. First, he took a touch when I don't think he needed to, and then for some very strange reason didn't realise he was under the kind of pressure that he was. I can't explain that aspect either. But the second was just confusing in how he started to come for the cross, then found himself in no man's land, then started to backtrack, and then the shot in itself was a savable one, and he threw this weird arm at it, and it looked as though he batted down into the goal as opposed to trying to tip it over the crossbar, which I can only assume is what he was trying to do. again, I don't know what was going through his head. It was as odd as it comes. Thankfully, both mistakes come in a game where it didn't matter, everything goes through. But it was strange.
Don, this is where you shout at me and say, look, Everton won 5-2, Dan. Why are you talking about the goalkeeper? But of course, the reason we're talking about him is because it's Jordan Pickford, because it's England's number one, because he seems to have completely and utterly lost any sort of semblance of form recently. And that second goal, for example, you were saying before that maybe it was for the cameras.
I think that's what Jordan Pickford does. I was chatting to Peter Schmeichel last season, and we were talking about Jordan Pickford, and we both come to the conclusion that he's too emotional. When Jordan Pickford has a really good game, he's high-fiving these centre-halves and he's jumping up and down and he's all over the place. But then Peter was sort of saying, well, what's he like when he has a bad game? How low does he go? You know, Peter was saying, I'm pretty sure Schmeichel agreed, goalkeepers they've got to try and keep an even keel and not get too high and not get too low. But when I watch Jordan Pickford, it's almost like he tries to make the easy saves as hard as possible for the cameras. And that was what I saw in the second goal. The first one was a mistake. He should have cleared it first time. He got caught. Mistake number one. Then don't make mistake number two by trying to make a really easy save or easiest save. Try to look so difficult, and then you fumble it. And the pressure's now back on him because eyes are going to be on him now, even on social media now. Evertonians, even though they've started the season really well, they've got a question mark about their number one.
Shaq?
Yeah, listen, I totally agree. The only comforting thing here for Jordan Pickford is the game that those errors came in, and you're thankful that they don't count for that much. They don't change or the result or the fact that you're going through to the next round. But of course, Jordan Pickford is going to come under a lot of scrutiny, given the position that he holds for the England national team. I still think he will be seen as Gareth Southgate's number one. That doesn't change. But he's just got to get back to doing things simply and doing the basics well and putting this behind him as quickly as possible. And Don's right. Don't get caught up in the moment, the highs or the lows. You have to maintain an even keel. What happens at the final whistle, how you celebrate that is entirely up to you. But goalkeepers often don't have that luxury during the course of the game.
When we drew 4-4, Shaq, against Charlton, and you let 4 goals in, you didn't get too low, did you?
Not at all. I was the same throughout, Don.
Ali, Jules, I want to start with you by talking about Angel Di Maria, who has been banned for 4 matches after that spitting incident in Le Classique. You tweeted out the maximum was 6. Why on earth didn't they ban him for 6?
It's a really good question. We don't have yet exactly all the conclusions from the league's discipline committee. What we think is that one, Alvaro, who was the target for Di Maria's spit, didn't have, as we know, the best of attitude during that game, and I think maybe there's a degree of provocation that the discipline committee took on board, really, to reduce a little bit the ban that they gave to Di Maria. Maybe the fact, I don't know, that the spit didn't land on Alvaro. I'm quite baffled, I have to say, that he got away with the 4-game ban instead of a 6-game ban. I even think that it could have been more than 6 and no one would have had anything to say, especially in the current context with the pandemic. Yeah. The fact that 2 weeks before the game he tested positive for it. I think it was a disgrace what Di Maria did, and I think 4 games is he could be very happy with that, and so could be PSG.
Ali?
Let's just go down the path of trying to defend Angel Di Maria. Well, that is a very slippery slope. And let's just then suggest, well, perhaps the fact that he spit towards Alvaro but not directly on Alvaro, then maybe that's why he gets 4. Let's say that we accept that for a second. Well, what about the stupidity test that he failed miserably? Because as Julian just mentioned, the fact that he tested positive for COVID, the fact that all the protocols that are going on around all leagues, including Ligue 1, and he then decides, guess what? Let me go with spitting. Let's go with that. Let's make that the solution to all of our issues. Angel Di Maria, just on the stupidity scale, deserves 6 games. 4 is just way too lenient. He deserved far more than this, and what he did It's inexcusable in the best of times, and certainly inexcusable in the current reality we live in.
Meanwhile, we're still waiting for any sort of conclusion regarding the Neymar and the racism incidents, Jules.
It will be next week, Dan. We know that the committee said that we will have all the conclusions next week, next Wednesday on the 30th of September. So by then they will have an extra week to, again, have a proper look at everything. I think they will prepare also the questions that they will have for Alvaro and for Neymar, and maybe other players that they would want to bring in. But certainly by next Wednesday, we should know what will happen to both Neymar and Alvaro, because they could both be banned, both be in trouble for the insult that they both mentioned, racial ones for both sides. It's so strange to talk in that way, but yeah, another week and then we will know.
Meanwhile, both of you were charged with watching the Arsenal-Leicester game today. Arsenal winning by 2-0. A couple of great goals, Ali. How would you sum up this game?
Look, it's good for Arsenal.
Yeah, I like
it's
that.
good the fact that they continue to have young players that are playing well and having a major role in their success, and not just because of today's performance against Leicester, but let's go back to the second goal against West Ham on the weekend, the game-winning goal, in which you're thinking, all right, late in a match, you need a game-winning goal. It's certainly going to come through Aubameyang. It has to be Aubameyang. Well, the truth is that they did not need Aubameyang in that particular sequence. When you consider that the goal comes from Saka to Ceballos to Nketiah, then you're thinking, you know what, there is reason here to be very optimistic about the current reality of Arsenal and the future of Arsenal, and thinking it doesn't have to be Aubameyang. More times than not, it's going to be him. But they have shown, these young players have shown, so far anyways, that they can also be relied upon to score an important goal. We saw some of the same things today from Saka and Nketiah. I think that Arsenal fans should be very happy about what Arsenal is right now and potentially what they could become.
Jules?
Yeah, that's right. The momentum, the confidence, keep going with the win. At times, I thought they took a lot of risk defensively from playing from the back, but that's what Arteta wants, and they will keep doing it. It could have cost them, because I think Leicester, there's a couple of occasions where they should have or could have exploited the ball that Arsenal lost in their own 30 yards for trying to play out from the back a bit better, but they didn't. And in the end, especially in the second half, I think the way Arsenal played was very encouraging, with almost a B team, because a lot of the usual starters were rested or on the bench. So it's really promising, and then it's another step forwards. Clearly, you could see what they're learning with Arteta, what he wants them to put together, whether it's the first team or, as we said again, the B team. It's working, and I think they're all on board for the same thing, the same direction, and that's what's been missing for so many years.
Meanwhile, Barcelona made it official. Ali, Luis Suarez heading to Atletico Madrid. First chance I've had to talk to you about it. How much does this help Atleti's title potential?
I think this is, on paper, a match made in heaven. If there was ever a picture of a player that would fit the profile of a Diego Simeone player, it is indeed Luis Suarez. And let's not forget and let's not ignore the emotional component of this move for Luis Suarez. If he had gone to Juventus and walked out the back door of Barcelona, even though there would have been hard feelings, well, he's in a different league, he's in a different country, see you guys later, take care, turn the lights off, time to go home. In this case, he's going to Atletico Madrid. And that emotional component, which is what drives Luis Suarez as a player, that indeed is the one that he's going to live with. That's the one that he's going to play with. That chip on his shoulder, that idea of, you know what, you made a mistake. You should not have let me go. You should not have treated me the way that you treated me. And I'm going to prove it to you. And I will tell you that when healthy, Luis Suarez can still be an effective player and a dangerous player and a player that Atletico Madrid needs when healthy. And that's the caveat for me. If Luis Suarez is fit, Atletico Madrid will benefit so much that they will be a certain contender in La Liga. If he's not fit, then we're back to the days of Diego Costa and struggling to score goals for Atletico Madrid.
Be sure to join us on the next edition